I'm good. Okay, my name is Maureen, Matumba. I'm from DFFE in Pretoria, head office. I'm responsible for biodiversity enforcement. I came with my colleague, Ms. Britta Makaranise there. Okay, so I'm going to do a presentation in terms of NEMBA and AIS regulation. The NEMBA stands for National Environmental Management Biodiversity Act, Act 10 of 2004, and the AIS regulation, the Alien Invasive Species Regulation of 2020. So my outline include the definition of the enforcement, the legislative framework, enforcement of AIS regulations, functions of EMIs, monitoring, control, and eradication plan, offenses, enforcement tools, penalties, case studies, and conclusion. So, what is enforcement? It entails acting against the offender, the transgressor, or the lawbreaker. So we are acting against the lawbreaker, and then the action that may be taken, it may be administrative or criminal. So, why are we doing this enforcement? Where does it come from? It starts with the Constitution of South Africa, Section 24 of the Constitution, which states that everyone has got a right to environment, which is not harmful to their health and well-being, and to have the environment protected for the benefits of present and future generations. So from the Constitution, we have got the National Environmental Management Act, which has been formulated in order to give effect to Section 24. So after the NEMA, the National Environmental Management Act, we have got different specific environmental management acts. So these include the Waste Act, the Protected Areas Act, and also the NEMBA, which is Biodiversity Act that I'm going to talk about today, of 10 of 2004. From the NEMBA, the Biodiversity Act, we have also we also have got the regulation which has been formulated in order to give effect to the Biodiversity Act. So we have got the Threatened or Protected Species regulation. We've got BAPS, Bioprospecting, Access and Benefit Sharing. We've got CITES, Convention on International Trade for Endangered Wild Fauna and Flora, and we have the Alien Invasive Species Regulation, which I'm going to talk about today. It came into effect 1st of October 2014, but we have got the latest amendment which came into effect for 2020. So enforcement of the AIS regulation. The environmental management inspectors, the EMIs, I will call them the EMIs, which are known as green scorpions. They are the ones.
Maureen, I'm sorry, can you move it a bit?
Okay.
Thank you.
They are the ones who enforce the AIS regulation. And we also have got the EMIs from the municipalities, from the provincial office, and us from the national office. The AIS regulation is a mandate for the national office. So the EMIs from the national office, they are the ones who enforce this regulation. The EMIs from the municipality and the provincial offices, they only support us when doing this job. So we also work closely with the SAPS, the South African Police Service, when we are investigating the environmental crimes, when we are opening the dockets. What are the functions of the EMI? Is to monitor and enforce compliance with the specific environmental legislation, including NEMBA, Biodiversity Act, and the AIS regulation, and also to investigate an act or omission where there is reasonable suspicion that it might constitute an offense. So we do the investigation. So the powers for EMIs, in terms of Section 31H, subsection 5 of NEMA, the EMIs, they must be regarded as a peace officer or to a police official who is not a commissioned officer. in order to comply with his or her mandate in terms of Section 31T. So we've got different grades with different powers. We've got 5 grades of EMIs. We've got grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5. The grade 1s, they are the one with more powers. Grade 1s, grade 2, and grade 5, they've got powers to search, to arrest, to seize, and issuing admission of guilt files. So grade 3 and grade 4, they don't arrest. But grade 1, grade 2, and grade 5, they can arrest you. And then we can seize everything which has been used to conduct the non-compliance. If you are transporting the species without a permit, then we can also seize your car. If we find out that you were selling in your nurseries, we can take the species from nurseries, and then we seize it until the case is finalized. So, example of the listed invasive species. Okay. So here we've got green iguana, which is category 2 here in Mpumalanga. In Mpumalanga, you must have a permit for this. If you don't have a permit for this, and you find that you are in possession of it, it's a non-compliance. It's an offense. Category 1B, this one is a this one is a bagweed. It's category 1B. So this one, you have to control it. This one is a category 2 species, rose-ringed parakeet. You must have a permit. This one is category 1B, Opuntia microdisis. You must control it. This one is lantana. It's category 1B. You must control it. This one is Acacia mensi, category 2. You have to have a permit. So offenses in terms of number. In terms of section 101 of number, a person is guilty of an offense if that person contravenes or fails to comply with the provision of section 65, subsection 1, 67, subsection 1, 71, subsection 1. So in terms of section 65, a person is not allowed to conduct restricted activities involving a specimen of alien species without a permit. So this permit, when Lusanda was busy with the presentation, she talks about the permit. So you must have a permit before you bring the species or you conduct restricted activities. So section 67, subsection 1, no person a person is not allowed to conduct restricted activities involving prohibited alien species. In terms of section 71, a person is not allowed to conduct restricted activities involving listed invasive species without a permit. So we have got alien species here, we have got the one which are listed. We have got a list for listed invasive species. A person who contravenes or fails to comply with the directive issued in terms of section 69, subsection 2, and section 73, subsection 3. In terms of section 69, it's a directive that has been issued in terms of when a landowner is conducting restricted activity involving alien species. Section 73, it involves a landowner who is conducting restricted activities in terms of listed invasive species. A person who also fails to comply with the provision of section 69, subsection 1, 73, subsection 1, section 69, subsection 1, it talks about the permit conditions with regard to the alien species. So you must follow all the permit conditions. You must comply with all the conditions. And then if you are not complying, it's an offense. Section 73, subsection 1 is in terms of the listed invasive species. the permit that you have given in terms of the listed invasive species, your Casarina, there. If you are not following, you are not complying with the permit conditions, you are allowing the spread, it's an offense. And also when you fraudulently attach any permit, making false document for the purpose of obtaining the permit, when you also forges the document for the purpose of getting a permit or carrying out restricted activities without a permit. So now, the offenses and penalties, AIS, in terms of AIS regulation. Regulation 36 subsection 2 provides that a person who contravenes or fails to comply with a provision in terms of section 2, subsection 2 to 3, all this section here, if you are not complying, you are guilty of an offense for not more than 5 million. If it's the second time, it's 10 million. Or 10 years imprisonment, or both the imprisonment and the fine. So in terms of this section here, it includes, if you are not eradicating the category 1A species, when you are not eradicating them, it's an offense. So you can be fined this amount. If you are not controlling category 1B species, it's also an offense. You can also be fined. If you are in possession of category 2 species without a permit, it's also an offense. If you are conducting restricted activity involving category 3 species, without this one you don't have to apply for a permit. It's an offense. When you are the nursery owner selling category 3 species, it's an offense. Also the nursery owners selling the category 1A species, category 1B species, they are not allowed to sell that in terms of the regulation. So it's an offense. So you can be fined 5 million for all these offenses. Penalties in terms of number, in terms of section 101 of number, a person is convicted of an offense. Because a person who is convicted of an offense is liable to a fine of 10 million. So this is in terms of number. That one, it was in terms of AIS regulation. So in terms of number, it's 10 million or 10 years, or both 10 million and 10 years. Invasive species monitoring, control, and eradication. This one is for the municipalities. In terms of section 76, subsection 2, yeah, all organs of the state, including the municipalities, they must prepare and submit the control plan, and the department will review it. So the control plan for the municipalities, it must be part of their integrated development plan, their IDP. I know mostly it's for 5 years, but then it is reviewed yearly. Every year you review it. So you must incorporate this plan into your IDP so that you can get a budget to control. Because if you are not submitting this, it's a non-compliance, it's an offense. So we'll be coming to you soon. We have issued pre-directive to the municipalities, and soon we might be issuing the directive straight, the law binding documents to the municipalities who are not complying with this section. So in terms of the regulation 10 of AIS, the management of the protected areas, the sandparks, they must also prepare their invasive species monitoring, control, and eradication plan. So when we come there, doing inspection, the compliance officers coming to your property, to your nature reserve, doing inspection, they will ask you, are you in possession of this plan, control plan, or not? And then if you are not, it's a non-compliance. It's an offense. So we have got enforcement tools that we use to the lawbreakers, the ones that we act. I said we are acting against the lawbreakers, the offenders. This is the tools that we use. We use the administrative enforcement, we use the criminal enforcement. In terms of, we start first with the administrative one. We issue the warning letters, we issue the compliance notice in terms of section 31L of NEMA, we issue the directives in terms of section 69 subsection 2 and section 63 subsection 3 of NEMA. But before we issue this compliance notice here, we issue you the pre-compliance notice and the pre-directive. In terms of section 33 of the Constitution of South Africa, everyone has the right to administrative action, which is fair, which is reasonable and lawful. It also read with the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act, the PAJA, which states that the decision which is to be taken, it must be lawful, also it must be reasonable, it must be fair. So then, we give the landowners the pre-compliance notice and the pre-directives in order for them to tell us the side of their story here. We call it a representation. Before issuing with a compliance notice, we notify you that we are intending now, on this stage, we are intending to give you a compliance notice. But at this stage, it's a pre. We are just letting you know that if we are not complying, we are going to issue the compliance notice. So then, the representation will be reviewed by the department, and then we will take decision whether to issue the compliance notice or not. But mostly here, the landowner decides to comply. If they are having category 2 species, they decide to apply for a permit. If they are having category 1A species or category 1B species, they then start with the controlling, or they submit the control plan. We know that you cannot control these species within a short period of time. So you need a time to do this. So most of the landowners here, they submit a control plan. It can be for maybe 5 years. Then you have to tell us, how are you going to control your property? You divide it in terms of the management area. You indicate in 2021, we are going to control in this portion, 2022, this portion, 2023, until you finish. And then we are going to monitor that control plan. We are going to come there for follow-up inspection. And then if we are not following that control plan, then it's a non-compliance. You must tell us, why are you not following it? Okay, now, after that, if we decided to issue a compliance notice now, maybe the landowner ignored the pre-directive, decided not to comply with pre-directive, we issue the compliance notice. And then we'll come again to your property and check whether you're also complying with the compliance notice. And then if you're not complying with the compliance notice that have been issued to you, we take the next enforcement action, which is the criminal way now. We have tried everything. We have tried to communicate with you. We have tried to give you the guidelines for the control plan. We have tried to give you the permit application. We have tried to send you emails back and forth, and then you decided not to comply. We go to criminal way now. So we'll open the case dockets with the SAPS. This is where the SAPS comes in now. We go to the police station, we open the case, we collect the evidence, hand the docket to NPA, the National Prosecuting Authority, for decision. So the NPA, they are the ones that are going to decide whether to prosecute or not. Then if they decide to prosecute, then the matter will go to court. And all court processes, the pre-trial, the trial, the sentencing will then follow. So we've got a case study here. It was State versus Noah Ark Pet Shop in Pietermaritzburg. The owner was found in possession. Remember I said it's category 2 species. You need to have a permit. The owner was in possession and were also selling the rostering parakeet. The pre-compliance was issued. The owner decided not to comply with it. The compliance notice was issued. And then this is the second inspection on the previous pet shop. So the second inspection was done. So now this time, the common boar, the owner was in possession of the common boar, which is category 2 species. You must have a permit for this. Then the court process starts here. The docket was sent to NPA for decision, and then the prosecutor decided to go on with the case. The owner was charged 50,000, 20,000 was paid immediately, and then 30,000 was suspended for 3 years. If we continue with the non-compliance within these 3 years here, this money, the 30,000, is going to be imposed. The second case study is the State versus the Granada Home Builders. The inspection was done. Our compliance inspectors did the inspection. Here, the pre-directive, this one is pre-directive. It was issued. The landowner decided to ignore it. The pre-directive was issued. He also decided to ignore it. And then the property, it was heavily infested with the syringa, with the bagweed, with the triffid weed, with the giant reed and lantern. So he decided not to do anything in his property. So the criminal case was opened. This was the case number, and then the case officer now, it was on this stage of collecting the evidence, collecting all the documents that needs to be handed to the NPA for decision making. Then he was taking the statement. So when he was taking the statement, the owner of the property decided, he then saw it, that this now is really serious. So when he started to realize that this thing is serious, he then started to control. But remember, the case is with the NPA now. So he was controlling, and he used 350,000 to control, because he was afraid to court processes. The NPA decided to prosecute because the landowner was ignoring all the instructions from directives. Now he's deciding to control because of the court processes that has to follow now. He was sentenced 50,000 or 2 years imprisonment because the land now has been cleared and he has used a lot of money. So he has cleared the land. He was also sentenced. So in conclusion, alien versus plant species do not respect boundaries. So landowner must work together. The municipalities, the private landowner, the nature reserve, everyone must be part so that you can win this struggle. And then alien invasive species, they are very beautiful, but they've got detrimental impacts to our environment. Even to our pockets, the man, you have to use a lot of man to control this. Then these alien invasive plant species, they are very beautiful, but they are very detrimental to our environment. They spread. They are fire hazards. They consume a lot of water. So we must take this thing serious. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maureen. You heard what Maureen says. We have to take it seriously. That's why we're all here today. But the case studies are an important part of the story, to see that things are being done, that there is due process which takes place when people are not interested in looking at following the compliance. And I think that's an important message here today. Are there any questions for Maureen? There we go, gentlemen.
Good day, my name is Ralph. I'm an ecologist in Mpumalanga. I've just got a couple of comments and suggestions. First of all, in terms of the database, the previous delegate mentioned that the database was lacking. I think we've done about 300 or 400 EIAs, environmental impact assessments, in the province over the last 7 or 8 years. And every single EIA has a biodiversity study attached to it. And each and every one of those biodiversity studies has an alien plant chapter in it. So if you're looking for a database, I think it's time to start cross-pollinating between the various departments and going to those databases, because you'll already have quite a lot of information of what's happening in the various areas of the province. Then in terms of EMIs, I'd like to know how many EMIs there are, because there's definitely not enough, and the ones that are there are not all doing their work. So my suggestion there as well is you've got a lot of environmental practitioners registered with IPASA and SACNESP scientists. It might be the right time to start investigating the ability to maybe register them as honorary EMIs, because we're out there all the time and we see these alien plants and invaders all over the country. And I think we can actually play a vital role. That's something I think that DFFE should consider. Okay. I've done a lot of whistleblowing over the last 18 to 24 months, especially in this province. So much whistleblowing that my whistle is broken. And I have found that not one of those reports that I have submitted in terms of environmental transgressions, not only alien plants, but also constructing in riverine systems, etc., similar to what that gentleman has also mentioned. And not one of those reports have come to anything. So although we have protection under NEMA in terms of the whistleblowing regulation, very little is actually done in following it up. Then I just want to come up for the N4. The previous delegate who said that the N4 is a bit of an issue. The N4, and I see the environmental manager for the N4 is here. I won't point him out to you. The N4 is run by a private concession called TRAC, and they do environmental audits along the N4 all the time. So the N4 and the road reserve next to the N4 is actually quite clean. It's generally compliant. It's next to the road reserve where the problems start. So in terms of the N4, I think we can be very proud of it. All the way from Pretoria, all the way to Maputo, is generally compliant in terms of alien plants and invasives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think those suggestions were fantastic. We brought up a slide just to show you what the problem is with regards to the number of feet on the ground. This is a national slide which shows you how many enforcements we have per province. So yes, I think any suggestion to the department where we can get more people who are competent in helping to identify where the problems are is a very good idea, and I hope the department takes that idea forward, because we certainly do have a capacity issue. Any other questions? There we go, for the gentleman in front.
Okay, let me just wanted to...
Maureen wants to answer, sorry.
Yeah, the one for the complaint, do you have a reference number so that we can make a follow-up?
I don't know what you refer to as a reference number. My email's the reference number. I never got a response. So I sent in photographs, I sent in GPS locations, etc., not only to one department, sort of 3 or 4 departments, which should all have an interest in what I reported, but I think there are more other pressing things in the country that seem to take their attention away of these sort of things.
Okay, maybe we can also assist you today again
But
to send it
I'm going
again.
to definitely take you up on that hotline that you proposed.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Thank you.
In front. This gentleman first, and we'll get to you now, sir.
Roland Jones. I got a Department of Works house below me, and it's been abandoned now, and it's just full of Tritonia. And
Okay.
how do I go about getting that cleaned up? Because it's spreading all over the street.
Yeah, I think it's the same process. You have to lodge a complaint, and then the inspector will come and do the inspection.
Okay, thank you.
I think we will be putting up that slide at the end. I think that's an important thing, that we channel all that information and all requests go through the right process. Otherwise, it could get lost.
Thank you, Maureen, for the presentation. Mine is a comment and a clarity, but the comment first. It's about the compliance. I can see that this compliance is a very, very, very serious thing. And if you look at the people around, okay, Mr. Lusanda mentioned, the previous speaker, about lack of awareness in Mpumalanga.
Yeah.
And I think it's true, because if you look at the streets of Kruger National Park, there are those with covers, a lot of them, and I believe that most of them are using these alien invasive species to do their business there. And most of those species, they need a permit. I'm not sure, I'm speaking under correction, if they really know how to apply for those permits, or they just go in the bush and cut them without permit. So in other words, we need to do something as officials to help those people to comply.
So it's permit for cutting trees?
Not necessarily for carrying those alien invasive plants, those that needs permit. And they are using them for business, but actually it's cutting and transporting and whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
They need to be aware. And
Okay.
the other thing is about this permit. You're talking about permit, and we used to talk about license.
Yeah.
I just need clarity there, because with previous departments, we were using the word permit and license, whereby a permit is issued within a day or 2 days, and a license you need to apply and fill in the license application form and wait for approximately 21 days before they issue with a license. So give us clarity about that, a permit and a license. What is the main difference there? Thank you.
To my understanding, I think it's the same thing. It's only the wording. At our department, we don't use license. On AIS specifically, we use the permit. So in terms of the permitting, I'm sure Shashika can be able to come in here in terms of how long does it take to get that permit. How many? So it takes 60 working days to get a permit. 60 working days.
Yes, because we have to do the pre-inspection, and we also have to wait for the inputs from the provincial department, so we take about 60 working days.
To answer your question, sir, there we go, 16 working days for the permit. And 60, and that's the terminology that the department is using. So for them, it's a permit, and also the permit can be revoked if you don't live up to the expectations. If you said you are going to be controlling the species X, Y, and Z, and you fail to do that, that permit can be withdrawn.
To add on that, I just want to give clarity between license and permit. So now they change, we are using the permit. That is why it's valid for 5 years. or possession. We are no longer using the name license. So it's permit, and we have different types of permit, because we also have a permit for transport that is valid for, it can be valid for 3 months or a year. Then you need to renew it, depend on the type of the species that you are in possession of it.
Thank you so much for that clarity. Do we have any more questions for Maureen? There. For the gentleman? Let's quickly go around, Maureen. We're going to be putting up that slide now during tea time and also during lunchtime with regards to the correct hotline.
Sorry, me again. I think this has gone off. Just on the municipality here in the city of Mbombela, all the green areas are full of invasive species. So who do I report that to? And does the mayor end up pay the fines and getting a jail sentence? Because that's how bad it is.
Yes, we did issue the municipalities here in Mpumalanga pre-compliance notices. So we are in state of doing follow-ups in order to go to the second stage of enforcement. So before we issue with a compliance notice, we have to check whether you are complying or not, because we may decide to remove the plants without telling us. So we have to confirm and be sure that you are not controlling, and then we can continue with the next enforcement action.
Sorry, then so sort of how long would that take before one should, would it be a year, 2 years, 3 years? Or would hopefully the city will actually do something before then?
As well, it's a process, so we have to issue compliance notice, and then we have to wait to check whether we give them 30 working days to submit the alien invasive species control plan, and also 10 working days to apply for a permit. So then we go according to the duration. So after 13 working days, we go back to the municipality. If they haven't submitted any control plan, then we go to the next enforcement action. But if they've submitted, then we have to check, we have to review their control plan and see if the department can approve it. Yes.
Right. Just for clarification quickly, and if we have no more questions, then afterwards we're going to just thank Maureen, and we're going to have a tea break for 15 minutes.
In terms of Mbombela municipality, so basically we were dealing with Gertsbanda at this moment as a district. So we started at Gertsbanda. So we are monitoring those municipalities. I think we left with 3 of them. So after we are going to Ngangala district, then we will finish with Ehlanzeni. So hopefully I think you will see the change. But Mbombela municipality, they are also aware of those alien invasive species. And also Ehlanzeni, they also have EMI inspectors. So I'm not sure if they're only focusing on waste or pollution only, because they were supposed to focus on green as well. So I will check with them, but hopefully I think people, they will see change when we come that side, because even at Gertsbanda, some of the municipalities, they're already in a control management plan, just a matter of implementing it.
Just for interest sake, has this municipality submitted their control plan, to your knowledge?
Yes.
It has. Well, there we go. There we go, one step.
Another thing, because normally you might find that they can submit control management plan, but to implement that is for next year or that coming years, depend on the funds, the resources as well, because sometimes it's not helping to say, no, I have a plan, but you don't have a resources to start the work.
Okay, well, that's, at least we have an answer there. No more questions? Great.
No more questions.
Maureen, thank you so much.